is jam-packed because our topic is very interesting and very pertinent to this country moving forward. Right next to me, Angela Mbitho. She's CEO of InfoTrack. Right next to her, Professor Peter Kagwanja, CEO, Africa Policy Institute. On the far end, Dr. Barack with the 2 R's, Muluka, all the way from Emmanuel, political commentator. Folks, thanks so much for making it today. I appreciate it. Let's go straight to Tanzania. Why not? Huh? Angela, let's start with you. Kenyan activists in Tanzania. Wrong move, right move? Your thoughts?
You know, Jeff, when I watched what was happening to both the politicians and the civil society activist Mwangi, it took me back to 2007 when I launched the InfoTrack poll, both here in Kenya and in Tanzania. And the chief guest in Tanzania was late Reginald Mengi. And we had people from Harris Poll coming in from New York. And we just had a very nice launch. I think, Barack, you were there in Nairobi. And when we got to Tanzania and we started talking about, polling and what polling does in terms of, representing the views of people, etc., I remember that when Mengi stood up to speak, he said, "My sister, we will allow you to do many things and we encourage you to do many things in terms of research. But the one thing you must not do here is polling. Our country is not ready for it." What am I saying? That Tanzania, whilst a good neighbor, is very conservative. Their brand of politics is still, perhaps where we were, as Barack was mentioning before, in the 1960s, late 1960s. Or early 70s. And we are very pluralistic. We are very assertive. We have, a very, dynamic way of exercising our freedoms. And when we forget that, these things are very, easy to exercise in our country and try to then replicate them, the same things, the same actions in a neighboring country, we end up, suffering what some of our colleagues and compatriots have suffered.
Prof, when you see the likes of Dr. Willie Mutunga, Martha Karua, Boniface Mwangi, all those, they get to the airport. Well, Boniface was in a hotel for a few days, but they get to the airport and they're literally turned around and deported. Literally.
Let me put it this way. What my sister is saying is right, that Tanzania is not like us. In many ways, and that Tanzania is what we were in the late 60s, during the one-party state. Then we became like Tanzania in the whole of the 80s and 90s. So Tanzania is stuck where we were in 1992, 2002. That's Tanzania for you. That it's a situation where the old is dying and the young has refused to be born. You accept multi-party, you allow a few parties, but you are not ready to open up the society. And at the same time, there is resistance from below. So what Willie Mutunga and Mother Karua and others are simply doing is exercising what we'd call regionalism. They're more complicated concepts like liberal internationalism. Basically, you are saying, if my neighbor is suffering abuse, I cannot sit back and say, it is not me, it's my neighbor. I think Tanzania finds itself in a very awkward situation because Mother Karua, Willie Mutunga, and Suluhu Hassan travel on the same passport. The difference is, it is issued by Kenya or it's issued by Tanzania. But even me, I travel on an East African passport. The same case to everybody else. So to say that there's a border here, therefore you can replace your people, doesn't work. The reason why the Kenyans were there is because the leader of opposition is facing a trial of his life. If he's convicted, he gets hanged on the highest tree in Tanzania. Now, we were in similar situation, and many people came to our aid. You remember 1992? You remember Hemstone?
Yes.
You remember other people from outside who came?
Yeah.
So if others came to your rescue, what moral ground do you have to sit back and watch a Tanzanian being lynched, other Tanzanians being killed? So this is the situation, this is the moral dilemma we find ourselves in, that you don't want to interfere. I would not do the same in Zambia, because we have nothing in common with the Zambia. I don't travel on a Zambian, and a Zambian does not travel on a Kenyan passport. But we are East African. Every time I am told to stand up to sing the national anthem, if they don't sing the East African anthem, I remind them we have not finished, because I'm East African. So I think that's the lesson we need to convey to Tanzania, that we are East Africans, and therefore we need to stand up for the rights of everyone.
Dr. Barak, you think is there a lot of paranoia by the Tanzanians?
I think there's a paranoia throughout East Africa. There's paranoia in Kenya. There's paranoia in Uganda. There's paranoia in Tanzania. There's paranoia everywhere within the East African community. The difference is in the stages. The difference is in the manifestation of the paranoia. But the paranoia is there. The entity that we call the State House in East Africa, in the community, is in panic. It's not sure of where it is standing, how it relates to the people. And when we look at Tanzania, as my two colleagues here say, is still behind. In fact, Professor, I think it's even further behind than we attempt to suggest. Because here, if you look at ourselves, in 1991, 1992, we were agitating for space. We were speaking the truth to State House. And we were telling President Moi, you have got to open up the space. In Tanzania, you have got the whimpering of Tundu Lissu and Chadema, which is really something very minor as compared and contrasted with what was happening in Kenya at that time. And to secure herself, President Samia Suluhu decides that this person should start his journey on the death row. And then you have got, and here I've got to agree completely with my colleagues, the institution of parliament that has abdicated its responsibility. You heard how they spoke in that august house, if it is still august in any way, justifying what was happening. You see, the East African passport should stand for something. It should mean something. Here in Nairobi, we were harassed, we were terrorized a few years ago, spending nights outside the Nyayo House, seeking to switch our Kenyan passport for the East African community passport, that we have got a common parliament. We even have a common court. Tanzania itself is the headquarters of the East African community. We have got a number of protocols on movement of the people. We have got a political pillars, one of the 4 fundamental pillars of the East African Treaty, that we look forward to a moment when we are going to be federated as the East African community. And then you have these people, and Angie, I don't look at them as politicians. I saw Willy Mutunga and Martha Karua as lawyers who are going to this neighboring country where we have become borderless. We even have a common border post. Common border posts all over the place in the East African community. And they have arrived here just to go in court, to witness, not to do anything else, to witness. You have got, of course, Boni Mwangi, and you have got Agatha Atahire, who are, of course, activists, but who have been in this country before. And when they were there, they did not engage in any activism. In any event, activism is part of the parcel of the law in the 3 East African countries. At least on paper, there's nothing criminal about mobilizing people.
Prof,
I think, Jeff, just before we move on, I think this aspect or concept of a borderless East African community is purely on paper. I travel quite a bit, and I will tell you that traveling to Tanzania to do business or even for pleasure is sometimes akin to traveling overseas. You actually question.
Traveling overseas, Angie, is very easy.
Yes.
You get to Europe.
Yes.
On a visa of any one of the countries in the Union, and you will go anywhere and everywhere without anybody.
You see, here in this case, you don't need the visa, but in reality, when you get to the immigration desk, the questions that you are asked. In February, I went for a conference, and the kind of preparation that my hosts, which was University of Dar es Salaam, had to do was shocking. Invitation letter, where I was staying, how long I would be there for, who was going to be paying. And I said, if I have to do this with a neighbor like Tanzania, you can imagine then what would be happening if it is, you are required to travel anywhere else. And do we really have this borderless kind of community that we're talking about? Indeed, the person who was behind me in the queue, a young gentleman, very, very, innocently said, I'm coming for a meeting. And he was told, where are your documents? He said, we have an office here. And he was told, young man, step aside. Because then it was going to accrue a work permit, a temporary work permit.
And yet there's that freedom of
So labor. Where is this freedom?
It's part of the East African Community Treaty.
Right.
Freedom of movement of people, services, of goods. But Jeff, Angie raises a very fundamental question. You get to the airport in Nairobi, and you will see a desk for East Africans.
Yes.
And it's not just one desk, there are several desks for East Africans.
Correct.
You get to Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, Julius Nyerere International Airport. I was there a few weeks ago. Tanzanians, foreigners. So we are all foreigners.
Yes. In their eyes.
There is one problem which perhaps we need to put into context. Tanzania does not believe in East African community. Tanzania,
why do you say that?
It doesn't. I'll tell you why. Tanzania does not believe that it is in the right. It's like somebody who is in a relationship that they're not happy with and they know they need to leave, but they can't leave. It's very painful. Tanzania is very comfortable in SADC.
No.
It's a member of the East African community, and it's a member of SADC. Now, what we are complaining about, neither Tanzania nor its SADC members complain about. Like yourself and everybody else, I lived in South Africa. And if you are in South Africa, going to Swaziland, going to Lesotho, going to Botswana, going to Zimbabwe, going to Angola is not an issue. You just get in the plane, go in and get out. Nobody prevents you. Because they have that community. Now today, if you want to go to Uganda, you want to go to Rwanda, you want to go to Burundi, nobody stops you, even South Sudan. Nobody even asks any question. But why Tanzania? Even Ethiopia, and Ethiopia is not a member of the East African community. The only country possibly be asked is Somalia. But Ethiopia, all the way up to Burundi, nobody will ask you. Why? Because they believe in the community, the East African community. But Tanzania believes that it's a frontline state. It is part of the states that were, in fact, its identity is the South, not the East. It finds itself geographically in the East, but its heart and soul are in the south.
So it's reluctant then?
So it's a very reluctant member of the East African community. I guess why Tanzania tolerates the East African community is because of the gains it has because of Arusha and the fact that Arusha is the capital of all of us. But you can also see that it has not invested much in Arusha.
Dr. Let's not forget that a few months ago, Ugandan opposition leader, Kizza Besigye, he was yanked out of his riverside apartments, dumped into a car, driven more than 10 hours back into Uganda. It's the same. I mean, are we
that's the paranoia we are talking about. Paranoia in State House in Dar es Salaam, paranoia in State House in Entebbe, and paranoia in State House in Nairobi. And one could talk about paranoia elsewhere within the community. Indeed, elsewhere, perhaps even everywhere in Africa, on the continent. I was reading Professor Kagwanja a few weeks ago, and I also read Justin Muturi, just attempting to appreciate the African condition today. It's like the people who are in power in State House are not very sure of themselves. And I think it is largely because they are not managing the promises and the expectations. That we have got a massive youthful population that is emerging from institutions of learning and training, either as qualified graduates or as dropouts, sometimes as a bit of each of those two, and they don't know what to do with them. And this Africa is rising. Make no mistake about it. Jeff, a year ago, almost the day today, I sat here with you in June last year with young people here, Gen Zs. And people were saying, what is Barack doing with Gen Zs on JKL? And we said in this studio here that if this government does not watch out, these young people are going to give it a shock treatment such as they have never seen. This continent should know that the youth are rising. You cannot have a country where, and it's a community actually, the entire East African community, where you can stop anywhere, marketplace, anywhere during the day, and you have throngs of thousands of young people who have materialized to see whether some 200 bob are going to drop. And they're huge throngs. And the people who should be sitting in their offices to plan and to implement, create wealth, create employment, productive employment, it's not there. So they are in panic. There's paranoia. When they look at Kizza Besigye, they want to pretend that he's the problem. That's just a scapegoat. And this spirit of Traore that people start seeing as the salvation is beginning to spread. You look at Burkina Faso, ECOWAS tell them, we don't want you. They tell Mali, we don't want you. They tell Niger, we don't want you. The three countries come together and they say, it doesn't matter, we will get into our own union. And it's a spirit that is spreading. Finally, when you have moments such as this, if you're in leadership in State House, you sit back to listen, to read, to ask, to receive answers, and to implement. You do not engage in high-handed, arm-twisting tactics. And in a country like ours, early political campaigns of the kind that you are seeing, because they are going nowhere. The more you go out, the more you twist people's arms, the more angry and repulsive things get. So in the proper order of time, that path, that opportunity you had of evolutionary change fails. And when the moment is ripe for change, the change is going to take place either through evolution, in the sense that those who are in power recognize that the time has come when we must do the right things. But if they don't, then evolution adds an R at the beginning.
Becomes revolution. Folks, okay, we're done with Tanzania. We're going to take a break, come back, talk about issues Kenya. Rose Njeri, she's a web designer. Right? Come on, man. What kind of paranoia are we talking about? You know, you jail her, you keep her...
You don't even know what charge to bring up against her. You hang around with her. I was reading Franz Kafka some time back, the trial, remember, Prof. And there's a man, Mr. K, who is arrested. And he does not know what offense he has committed. The prosecutor does not know what offense he has committed. The trial judges do not know what offense he has committed. Even his attorney does not know what offense he has committed. But in the end, they sentence him to death.
Good Lord.
Yeah, it was
and that's where we are.
It was in South Korea.
That's where we are.
It was in South Korea where this guy is actually accused of being disrespectful of the country because they said, Godam. I mean, he couldn't cross the road, he couldn't do anything. And the repression was so much. And therefore, he was also sentenced to hang. Just because it is in Gogo Wathiongo's book, what do you call it? Colonizing the Mind.
Yes.
I think there's a story there.
Okay, and let's not forget, it's exactly 3 weeks today until the first anniversary of the Gen Z demonstrations.
Yes.
3 weeks today.
3 weeks today.
First anniversary. We'll talk about that and plenty more issues. Broad-based government. Is there a merger coming between ODM and UDA?
I think they're calling it bread-based, not broad-based.
Bread-based.
It's a broad-based conspiracy.
When we come back with a dictionary to see whether it's bread or broad.
Keep tuning, folks. It's a great conversation at Kenyan Jeff at Citizen TV Kenya. Hashtag JKLIVE. JKLIVE takes a break. We'll be back in a moment.